All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to all who have joined. I am Eric Schmidt, CEO and co-founder of GlueUp. Today, we have a special program, something we haven't necessarily done before, but in listening to, in conversations with our customers and people that we meet, we see a lot of people who would like to try to improve where they're generating revenue from and how to do it and how to manage it. So today's session, one of our thought leadership programs, is really going to dive into some of that. Some of you who do know GlueUp, we've built an all-in-one CRM solution for associations and chambers of commerce with membership, events, email marketing tools, community products, and the like. And so with that, as we think about, building a CRM and really thinking about how AI can enable that, but also what does the future of a CRM look like? Technology is great, but if people are not using it in the right way or not maximizing the potential of the technology, then obviously the organization has things that they can gain from opportunities by learning how to use it better. So today's session is really partly sales management, partly using a CRM, but really the end of the day is how does an organization improve how to use all those things and therefore improve its revenue opportunities. So our lineup really today is one of our sales managers, Paul Gentile, who's going to be talking through again all the topics that I listed, how that is happening a little bit inside GlueUp, and then there'll be some time for some Q&A at the end. But again, we thank everybody for joining us, and we look forward to some interesting conversations. And I will pass it over to Paul, and look forward to a great session. Paul,
Thank
over
you
to
so
you.
much for the intro, Eric. Hello everyone. Nice to see y'all. Thank you so much for hopping in. So yeah, let me go ahead and get started here. So first, I just wanted to give a little bit about my background over here. So as Eric mentioned, I am the senior sales manager over here at GlueUp, and here's a little bit of my background on why I thought I could share knowledge of using a CRM as well as some sales process stuff. So I began my career in sales 15 years ago. It was my first job out of college. I was in sports journalism before that, and realized it wasn't great money there, but everyone was like, you should do sales. So that's, in essence, why I went to sales. And then I moved up to sales leadership in 2013. So for 12 years, I've been involved in sales leadership and managed probably at this point over 100 different people. And in that time, well, one of the company where I first started, yeah, I was like maybe sales rep number like 14. And by the time I left, there's over 250 sales reps between either acquiring new members or doing some sort of like retention engagement, things like that. And a lot of the stuff that I'm sharing in these slides are best practices that I've learned with many people that I've worked with, as well as just lots of different training sessions that I've attended and podcasts I've listened to, YouTube videos. And of course, if anyone, by the way, has any questions at any point, feel free to ask as I go through these. So this is kind of what we're going to go over in all this. There's one, like a sales funnel management, like how do you operate in different sales funnels? What does a sales process look like? What are some membership sales and renewal and upsell strategies? And also this thing about sponsorship and partnership sales. I'm going to touch upon that as well. This is kind of Eric mentioned, like GlueUp does have a CRM in it. So, there will be some little nuggets of what GlueUp can do in here, but the most of this is going to be centered around these things here in the table of contents. But very quick plug, just in case if you're not too familiar with the GlueUp platform, we are an all-in-one association management platform. We do have a CRM, as well as an event management, email management. We are a global company as well, which is awesome. And these are some of the reviews. But we are working with over 1,500 membership-based organizations across 70 countries and 6 continents. So that's a little bit about us. So the main idea the main idea that I want everyone to take away with is, all right, whether it's all of us or even just a couple of nuggets, how can we adopt a sales process? And the reason that you want to do it is if it's a process and it's something that's very repeatable, then success will happen because success is the sum of small efforts that are repeated day in and day out. That's something that Robert Kohler from Sales Hacker said. And that's kind of like a quote that me and my team in essence sort of live by because if you keep adopting something and you keep doing it, then not only can you start to expect some sort of success based off conversion rates and things like that, but you could also find out ways to get better. And that's some of the stuff that I'll look at. Um, so step one of the first things that you want to do if you don't have this already, I'm starting in the new member side. So we'll go down this funnel. So right now we need to define what do we want our pipeline stages to look like. I just picked a very basic one. There's some pipeline stages that are like 10, but a very, very basic one here. We have prospects at the top. And prospects can be maybe someone who attended one of your events, but they're not a member. Maybe they're a referral. Or, some organizations even just do researching online and they know who their ideal customer fit is. So it could also be somebody that has no idea that your organization exists, but you found them and you think they're good. So that's what we will define as prospects for the purposes of this presentation. Then there's leads. We'll define that as someone who showed interest in membership. Maybe they went to your website and filled an application form, or maybe you had a conversation with them and they showed some sort of interest. And then, of course, some organizations do trial memberships, some don't. So just in case you do trial, we'll show some best practices about what it's like to do a trial. Very, very quick mini plug. That was a new tool that's available in GlueUp. And then, of course, we'll go through the member journey after that and some ways that maybe we can do upsells, but also how do we retain and make sure we have a strong renewal rate. So once you have all the different pipelines, like those different like levels, in this case, just the 3 before membership, you then want to have that listed somewhere, whether you're using GlueUp as your CRM, if you're using Microsoft Excel, if you are using Salesforce, you also then want to have these stages somewhere because you want to be able to run reports. One of the things that we do here at GlueUp is we always like quarterly look at all those stages. We go off of like 8 stages, not just 3 there. And it's really good for us to tell, okay, this is where we're able to see conversions lacking. Like maybe it's in the prospecting stage and we can't convert these people to leads, right? If we know that, then that gives us the ammunition that we need to know that we need to change maybe what we're saying, maybe how we're outreaching. And then when we see that get better, then we see where else we need to improve. And this also just gives you the opportunity when they're here to just really cultivate leads. There's different things that you can do when someone's under the qualified stage versus in negotiation. Like you'll know what to do in these different stages if you're very organized about where people fit in. This image here on the right, on GlueUp, there is like a CRM opportunities manager that we have here where you can actually, click and drag people. But I highly recommend, again, whether it's Excel, GlueUp, HubSpot, something like make sure you're organizing all the different stages that you have. So then you could always see very easily where everything is. All right. So now let me go over the prospecting stage real quick. So I'm going to take these stages one at a time and kind of show some best practices that I have found in my time in sales. So tips on prospecting. So there's tools that are out there. There's paid tools. ZoomInfo and Sales Intel are 2 of some of the popular ones. And there's a bunch of other ones. Those ZoomInfo and Sales Intel, just in case if you're not familiar with them, those are tools that you can put in like who's your ideal customer profile. So let's just say you're like a bar association, for instance, and you just want it to query all lawyers in Virginia. Let's just say you're of the Virginia Bar Association. It could do all of that and also provide with you contact information and stuff like that. Of course, you do need a CRM. That's really going to help for prospecting. The last thing you want to do is, call somebody, have a conversation with them. You don't write it down anywhere. You just think it's going to stay there in your head, and then you call back 3 weeks later, and you have almost the exact same conversation. Because, I think I have a strong memory, but that's not what you want to do, of course. And then, of course, Google could be a great tool for prospecting. So here's an example. Going back to the Bar Association, this is one way that I've prospected my whole life. You kind of, just Google what you want. So I did a search. Again, let's pretend this is the Virginia Bar Association, law firms in Falls Church. And you get the results of people. I clicked on the top one there. A lot of companies will have like a meet the team, or they'll have something where you can then find out who it is that you need to call for. Then you could see who the leadership team is, maybe even view a profile. Sometimes they'll have their LinkedIn connection. Maybe you have members of your organization that are, connected with Tom in this case. And that right there is a great way then to meet Tom and, try to have an introduction in this case. Oh, I got a question come in. Oh, okay, William, I see your question. Yes, I think that's more for me and not for this. So I will email you back an answer to that. Okay, so going back to prospecting. So after we have found who we want, like the people that we want to reach out to, let's say we prospected, we found 10 people. If there's another thing to take away from this, look at this graph right here on the right. And this has been the same from like top reps that I've managed versus not top reps. Most people probably stop right here at contact number 3. That means that, the Tom person that we saw on the previous slide, maybe I called him once, that's one touch. Maybe I emailed him also. That's it. Maybe I give up. Maybe I do one more touch. Maybe I do a LinkedIn touch too, right? There are so many studies that show that after you actually get to contact point number 8, so maybe that's 3 calls, 3 emails, a LinkedIn request, and a text message or something like that, you're like 10 times more likely for that person to then, respond to you, schedule a meeting with you, have some sort of connection. And the more you do this, obviously, the more they become aware of your organization, right? Um, so this is the same for whether they're an inbound, like they filled out a membership application form for you, or if it's just completely cold, you're reaching out, they have no idea you exist. The more touches you do, the more likely that you will schedule a meeting with them or schedule a call with them so that then you can hopefully convert them into a member. So just remember, most people, I think it's like 90% of people give up at like point contact number 8. So if you can get the 8 or above, like you're kind of then getting an elite status, elite stage. And that's again what a lot of the top reps that I've worked with have done. There's emails that could be automated through drip campaigns and stuff like that. And I'll kind of show some examples of that here. So one example, there's like a free tool. If you're using Outlook, a lot of people in the nonprofit world are using Outlook. There's a tool called Autobound. It's completely free. And well, I mean, they have paid tiers, of course, but this is just one example that this can help you do like sequences. Obviously there's also things like Constant Contact, there's MailChimp. GlueUp also has an email tool too, another little plug for us. But there's tools out there that can make it so you're doing these different automated sequence touches. And again, whatever you can do to get to, contact number 8, that's going to be what's helpful to you. So Autobound is one that's good. This is an example of what can be done through GlueUp and how you want to maintain those touches. Again, we have a CRM there. So this is where I could see, all right, here are the 4 touches I've done so far. Where are they? Only the second time did I chat with him, but he was busy, but he said I can call back. And now I have my 5th touch due in 8 days from now, right? So this is an example of if you had a CRM, how it could look like and how you can know where you are in getting toward that 8 touch goal. Another tip. So I'm not sure how many of you have ever heard of Calendly or something like it, but if you don't have it, another service that's free, I would 100% recommend it. According to Cloud HQ, you're 87% more likely to get a meeting if you're utilizing a Calendly link. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of what these look like. So here's a test email, and you can see right here, there's a schedule link. So this is what a lot of people do. They put in their signature. Someone could click schedule a meeting with me here. It's going to go straight to my calendar. Now, a pro tip that I have. So if you look at this one and we look at this one, so you can see I just put test email. If you look at my two signatures here, this part, the scheduled meeting with me here, that is actually part of my signature. But doing this alone also will help you get more meetings scheduled because it's, my scheduled meeting thing isn't lost. So I would encourage you to put something like that up here so people can find the scheduled meeting very, very quickly, make it, the very top of your signature in essence, and then after that, put the rest of the stuff there. That's something that's worked. But yeah, if you haven't heard of Calendly, this is how it's spelled right here. Definitely get that, make that part of your process because as people, come in, that's how they'll be able to book time. Okay. And again, if anyone has questions, please, put them in here. But now I'm going to move on to stage 2, which is like lead nurturing, what to do when you actually have somebody that wants to chat with you. So this is something that we've learned as a best practice from, many, many organizations. So some, from what we've seen, might only have like 1 tier or 2 tiers. And what we've learned is if you offer very distinct tiers, this can make benefits and price points way more valuable, right? And whatever CRM that you're using, you can actually leverage this data just to see, okay, like this person gets this benefits, and this is how many tickets they get, and this is how many they've used. You can also, with GlueUp, there's like a community portion that we have. Like you can have certain tiers tie into that. So that way you can have the patron members be in a group together and make it so that they can connect and stuff like that. But having all different membership options obviously just will increase value to what you're able to do. And also maybe make it easier for someone like at a very, very small tier to be able to join. So if you aren't doing membership tiers and things like that, that is something that we would totally recommend here. So I was just in Texas. I attended TSAE. It's the Texas Society of Association Executives. And it was their annual conference. And I attended this one session that talked all about sponsorship and partnership programs. And one of the things that they discovered, and maybe if any of you all are doing this, it's something that you can think about when looking at the slide. So when people think of not members, but like more of like the sponsors or the partners, a lot of organizations are still pretty much just kind of doing booth at a conference as like the main like sponsorship thing that they have, and they can't think of other ways to get more out of these partners. And what this lady, her name was Holly, was really talking about was engaging these partners, throughout the whole entire year. I mean, you definitely want to, by the way, find out another pro tip. You want to find out when everyone's fiscal year is, because some companies have a January fiscal year, some have an October fiscal year. So making sure that you are fitting inside their budget at the right time is definitely something that you want to do. But when you are thinking of your sponsors, think of it as way more than just a booth at a conference. Like they can also be a host of a webinar. Maybe at one of your events, if like let's maybe say we're a construction association, like a subcontracting association or something like that. Maybe one of our members who, does drywalls and stuff like that, like maybe they can talk about how they got amazing deals from when they're getting all their stuff shipped to them, and that could be their speaking role because we know that they're great at it, and they also get a chance to like pitch their product, so it's a win-win. Same thing about doing like a thought piece, right? A thought piece in a newsletter or a thought piece in a magazine if one of you are doing a magazine. And by doing this, like she mentioned, she had previously the organization had partners that were like, $2,500 a year for a booth. And then when someone was doing all of this, it could be something like 30,000 for the whole year. So if you can think of other ways just to really leverage your partners, you can make some great things happen. Now, something else to really, really help when it comes to all these leads is making what we call in sales playbooks. Playbooks, some people call them like scripts. I don't like the word script, but they're more like guides. They are guides on how to go through the sales process for whichever tier it is. So whether it's a gold tier for a membership or a platinum sponsorship tier, or maybe like an affiliate, having a different set of questions, a different set of value points, all that stuff is going to make you more successful and have a higher close rate for all of these conversations that you would be having with them. So for instance, here at GoulUp, we work with chambers of commerce, we work with trade associations, like we work with chapter-based organizations, we work with just like, individual member type associations and societies and things like that. And the conversations between, a chamber of commerce and a chapter-based organization and stuff like that, like there's different value points that GlueUp provides. There's different, I don't want to say issues, but there's different pain points that, some of those the trade associates have compared to, a chapter-based organization or whatever. So by having different sort of playbooks like we would have here, we lead the conversation in a way that works better. And so if it's something that you haven't done before, it is something that I would totally recommend. And so some ways to create a playbook. Um, in my career, I think I'm almost at like 11 playbooks that I've made. Um, so you want to, what is your value proposition for each tier or each type? Again, if it's even just the three different levels of membership, you could have different playbooks for that. So what's the value proposition for each tier? Another thing that really works is you want to poll your customers that are on that tier. What do they really like most? You probably want to ask like your happiest customers, and that way you can share what it is. Like when it comes to GlueUp specifically, the feedback that we hear a lot is very easy to use platform. Event management tool is awesome. The community thing, right? So like when I'm on all of my pitches, I make sure I lean in heavily in that stuff because that's stuff that I hear back all the time. And then it just really comes out in my inflections and my voices when I'm talking about those things that we're really strong in. And if sure everyone hears AI all the time, if you're not using ChatGPT to help with stuff, definitely get in there. ChatGPT can also like after you kind of like tell it, points 1 and 2 there, you can ask it to help with point 3 and it can help you at least write the beginnings of a playbook. And so there's on a pitch, on when you have a lead and you have that, whether it's on the phone, in person, or like on a Teams call or Zoom call, there's 7 different steps in the sales process here. So, you want to make sure you're obviously making contact and building rapport. Step 2 and 3 is one of the most important steps. And this is a step that I think a lot of people don't do as much. This is when you're really asking lots of discovery questions. You just want to really find out what is what is this person interested in? Maybe what pain points do they have? What do they want to learn out of potentially becoming a member? What are they hoping to get? Why haven't they been a member yet of your organization? What would potentially hold them back from becoming a member if they really liked, how this went? Asking questions like that and really just digging in, the more questions you ask, the more information you get out, the more likely it is that you'll be able to close them. And then once you find all these needs, you tailor your pitch toward them. Maybe in the same call, you deliver, the proposal. You might have to negotiate a little bit, and then hopefully you close the sale. But there's another main thing to remember. Steps 2 and 3. Lots of people. This is going back to like again, like the top sales reps that I've ever managed. They ask way more questions than the people that weren't at the top. So be curious, ask questions. Okay, so now we've talked about prospects. Now we've gone over when you have someone that is interested and nurturing that lead. Now, we know that some chambers and some associations do trial periods, and so there's some things that we have been told were successful. And also, 2 jobs ago, I also had a trial period, level two, and so we know this. It's an optional way for someone to get their foot in the door. It's supposed to be someone's foot in the door. Um, so some tips to make it successful. You got to make sure they have a strong onboarding experience. Even here at Glue Up, like if someone wants to sometimes like use a sandbox or something, we make sure they know what they're doing. We make sure they have a strong onboarding experience. Because if they're in there, if they're in and they're joining your association or your chamber and they don't understand what to do once they get in there, then that right there is gonna probably start them off on the wrong foot. Having a midpoint check-in and having that scheduled. Another tip is, always make sure you have like your next touch point scheduled. So do some sort of mid trial check-in, have it scheduled, and then check in, be like, hey, how are things going so far with with our trial membership with you? Making sure they're part of the educational drip campaigns is another thing that I think is very, very good. There's in with Glue Up especially, you can totally make different, like smart lists we call them that can help with these drip campaigns. But whatever platform you're using, just make sure that, if you're getting them very, very relevant information. And then another tip, if you have either champion members, or committee volunteers or something, having somebody that is, not staff, reach in and try to engage with them and stuff like that. That's something too that really, really helps. Um, I just got a question for trial. If you don't have tiers, which is just a non-member price. That's totally something else that you could do as well. I mean, trials, like some people do trials in different ways. They do free ones or they do like a non-member price where like instead of it being $100 a month, maybe it's like slightly higher, or even slightly lower just to get them in the door. So that's kind of what some folks do. They'll do like a non-member rate for, 1 month or whatever. So that's something that could work. Good question. Okay. And now we've done everything well. We prospected someone. They submitted a lead on our page. We just put them through trial and now they're members. So now we want to make sure that we retain them, of course, and have a really high renewal rate with them. So first, I want to show why do people not renew? This is something else that I heard at a conference. And the top 3 reasons that people don't renew: lack of engagement. They didn't see the value. Sometimes those can kind of go the same. Number 3 or C is kind of interesting. They also just might have forgotten to renew, right? Um, so we'll show now some tips to kind of improve on these things. Number 1, we want to make sure we have a strong onboarding experience. That kind of goes to the trial thing. If they have a strong onboarding experience, they're going to feel engaged right away. So speaking of engagement, so there's multiple ways, that people can, many organizations can engage with their network. We totally recommend having digital communities, and you can do these. You can use Facebook for these, of course. GroupMe. At GlueUp, we do have our own community hub, and so that's another thing that you would get with us. That's what this image right here looks like. But whatever it is that you want to use, you definitely want to make sure that you have a digital community, because this will address the engagement. If right off the bat they feel that they can connect with other members, then they're going to feel engaged. This is also a great place to have monetization opportunities, whether that is you sponsor a post yourself. So now let's pretend that we are a teachers association. And one of our sponsors is some company that sells notebooks. I can't remember the top of my head. maybe then we'll do a post on their behalf so they could see, hey, everyone that's part of the Virginia Teachers Association gets to save 15% off these notebooks. Click this link, right? Like great opportunity to one, not only save money for your members, but also way to get money from that notebook company, right? You can also have like a free and premium community as well, where the premium gets extra stuff. Maybe the free they only get to listen to stuff. They can't like really make posts. Like you can make rules like that both on Facebook, but also on GlueUp if you wanted to. And you could also do sub communities as well if you wanted to, like think just like a young professionals group or something like that. Other couple ideas are like the speed networking, so that can be done like in person or virtually. That's something else that Gloop does, but having some sort of speed networking that happens, we actually do that here as employees here in Gloop. Every quarter we have a speed networking thing. And I remember when I first started at Gloop a year and a half ago, it was cool. Like I got to meet people and all throughout the world that work at Glue Up, and it was just like a little 2-minute conversation, but still, it was cool to learn what somebody on the other side of the world was doing. So having something like that, is another way to get your members engaged. Um, and another tip, you want to make it mobile friendly. With Gloop's community, it would be mobile friendly, obviously Facebook also. But whatever you're doing, make sure it's mobile friendly because over 50% of all web traffic is mobile based. So now So now we tackled kind of like the engagement thing, or like ways to get people engaged. Now let's talk very quickly about how do we see who's engaged and what do we do with information when we find out someone's not engaged? Um, because making sure again that people renew, I mean, the acquisition costs for a new member for anywhere, any industry, it's always higher than just having somebody, renew. Like that's always the easiest thing. So whenever we have someone that doesn't renew, of course, it just really ends up, hitting our pocketbooks, right? And the board then doesn't like seeing stuff like that. So we can, if you have a good CRM, you should be able to identify who's not engaged or who is engaged. And when we say some behavior that shows who's not engaged is how many events are they attending? How many emails are they opening? Have they paid us? Are they logging in? Have they done any posts in the community? These are all engagement touch points. And these things that you're able to find these on GlueUp, like here's an image of it. But also, there's with other CRMs too, you might be able to. And what you want to do then is you want to have different touch points, different renewal messages for the people that fall into these different segments. So when you do find that someone is super engaged, like this person attended 7 events, they're part of 2 committees, we'll call them, we'll put them under the tier that's called superstar. We send them an email, have a superstar on it, with all the other people that are superstars, and we just say, hey, thank you so much for being a part of, our chamber and doing this. And then low engagement members would get something else like, hey, do you remember how to log in? Are you aware of all these events that we have? Hey, you missed 100 people at, this networking happy hour or whatever it is. Having those things tailored to these different people is something that will help when it comes to what to do with engagement. If you're sending the same emails in essence to everyone all at the same time and not like segmenting this, then that could be one thing that can help moving forward. Um, so another thing, of course, then is also automation. We saw the third reason why people don't renew, and that is they just forget. Automation will help with that. AI is obviously making things more and more automated. So number one over here, auto renewals, that's something that you can make recommended. You can even have some membership tiers where it is 100% required. What's nice, that's another shameless plug in Globe, you can do auto renewals. And a lot of CRMs, you can have auto renewals in there. And maybe it's even certain tiers, if they want to pay monthly, then they have to be on auto renewal or something like that, right? You could make rules like that. But definitely recommend no matter what it is, you at least have auto renewal there as an option. Because again, number three reason people don't renew is they just forget. And if you have auto renewal there, then it's not them forgetting anymore. It would have to be reason one or two that they don't renew. Um, and then the other thing to really help with people forgetting is setting up automation for reminders. So whether that's, multiple touch points, things like that. Um, There's also upsell opportunities that you want to make sure you have. So, like for instance, in the Glue Up member portal, like there's these all these upsell options. But part of your emails, that you're sending out, you could always like highlight different options, maybe even have different specials. So, like since football just started, do something clever like, hey, touchdown with a upgraded membership tier for 25% off or something like that, right? And send it maybe only to the really engaged people too. So something like that could help with upsells. And by the way, going back to the automated reminders, so you definitely want to have the emails be automated for sure, but you also don't forget to call. Like I remember I was chatting with in an association when I was in Texas last year, and they told me the only one of the reasons why one of the pieces of feedback they got from their members that didn't renew in the last year was in essence they didn't feel appreciated even by the staff. And that's when it dawned on the person like, hey, we just need to also call them when we don't hear back, or when they're unsure or something like that. Like people like being valued. And so having calls broken in there too is something that absolutely helps. It'll make them feel valued, like you really care about their business. But if all that said, even if you did everything perfectly, you're still never going to bat 100% on renewals, right? That's just something that unfortunately doesn't happen. It's a really good idea then to do feedback loops. Like let's do exit surveys. Let's find out why some of these people didn't renew and identify maybe what are some changes that we can have to our association or our chamber just to get things to be a little bit better. And then you can, use those insights for the next cycle. And that's pretty much everything I had. So yeah, just to kind of wrap up again, how GlueUp could potentially help with all of this, all the stuff in there, like running events and doing sponsorships and stuff like that as an option can be done. Membership management, email marketing, CRM, all the aspects that were in here are things that, can be done as well. But regardless of if you use us or if you're using one of our competitors or Excel, whatever it is, I hope you take away from this that using some sort of sales process and having it repeatable, whether that's making playbooks and now always using those, or maybe actually having cold call added. I know from what I've heard, a lot of folks don't cold call, and I know it's kind of scary, but if you do it, it can work. It could totally work. As long as if you take one aspect of this sales process thing though and just keep repeating it and keep doing it, you are going to find that more revenue is going to come, which is ultimately what would make your jobs better and make the board happier. Well, cool. That was everything I had. Seriously, I want to thank everyone for hopping on and watching this. Does anyone have any questions? I'll stick around just in case if some more come in here. You're welcome. I'll hang on just for a couple more minutes just in case if anyone else has a question come in. Got a question in. How do we partner with Cvent? That's a great question. So yes, we are partnered with Cvent. So while we do have our own event management tool, Cvent, they're the best when it comes to event management. And there's certain things that we can not do that they can do. One of which is like abstract management, like having, people submit all their presentations and then having all that stuff like flow into their spots and really, really detailed session registration stuff as well, they're stronger at, or stuff with exhibitor maps. So if there's an event, like a really big event that you would need Cvent for, we are directly integrated with them. So like if there's membership tiers that you have, or like XYZ member, gets this price or gets for free or whatever, when you set up the event on Cvent and they buy the ticket on Cvent, it will talk to us to make sure that this person that's buying this member ticket is in fact a member of your organization. And when they register and when they attend, that information also will sync with us, and then it would show in their profile and count toward those engagement scores that we were talking about. And they're an awesome partner, by the way. You are very welcome. I think a couple more, any other questions, or if anyone else has any other comments or something that they might want to try to start implementing or something like that, love to answer any other questions or see any other thoughts. All right. Well, I want to thank you everyone again. And I'll send a follow-up email just in case anyone else wants to ask any other questions. But I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. And thank you so much for stopping by to check out this webinar.